That's a fun topic.
Yeah. Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. I am Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters, and I'm here as ever with my wonderful co host, Karen Swim. She is the head of Solo PR Pro, which is the group that brings all of us solos together so well and keeps us informed and keeps us inspired. How are you, Karen?
I'm
Are you
doing,
informed and inspired?
you know, a lie and say I am doing great, but I am tired. It's these holiday weeks. They get us
Oh,
right.
yeah,
They're
they
short, but we
do.
come back 2 days of rest, and then we jump right in, and it's a new month. But I'm good, Michelle. How are you
It
doing?
is good. I'm well. Yeah, exactly. Then this holiday happened to land at the end of a month, so that's always fun in our world.
Yeah,
But it could be worse. It could be worse. But hey, that's kind of the theme
yeah.
of today is we work for ourselves. So our theme in this era of having spent the last 15 months, some of us working from home for the first time, we're going to focus
So
on
we're having a few
summer.
technical, yeah,
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
of technical there for this audience with the feed. That's okay.
There we go. There we go. We just have a little, and hey, we'll roll with it. That's what this podcast is
Yeah.
all about. We solos, we pivot well. So yeah, we're gonna this today's episode is called Summer Time. Just because I don't know, Karen, I had a chance to rethink it, and I doubt I'll stick to it, but hey, I'll try for at least a week. Of saying to myself, because I deigned to take a day off a couple weeks ago. I know that sounds so stupid when I say it out loud about myself. It's like, yeah, why don't I work so that maybe my Friday afternoons are mine, or even a time to triage my world. If I know that I might still be needed by someone, don't want to get too far away from email or too out of my work zone head. It's so today in today's episode, we really want to challenge you and inspire you to think about how you could restructure your work week, your work days as we enter into this season of hopefully wherever you live, sunshine and warmth and renewed possibility of getting out of the house on occasion.
Yeah, it's interesting that I feel, Memorial Day being the holiday that's thought of as the unofficial kickoff of summer, even though it's not officially summer yet. And
Mhm.
this year, particularly, as we're sort of peeking our heads out, like bears that have hibernated for a very long winter,
Yeah.
there's a lot of hope, and people want joy. And I'm
Yes.
noticing that people really are taking off for these holidays that have popped up, like Memorial Day. It was quiet. Clients weren't working, people weren't working, journalists weren't working. And in the past, there's been this tendency sometimes to work over the holidays because it's quiet, but it's good to see people really leaning into the time off. But I'm a big
Mhm.
advocate for not waiting for forced time off, which, it feels like
Right.
the holidays, it's like, well, what choice do you have? Nobody's working. But really bringing more of that holiday spirit, that summer spirit into your everyday work.
Yes.
And I think that this pandemic forced us to kind of reflect on our pace. We can get so
Mhm.
much done without all of the stress and busyness that accompanies that. Now, that doesn't mean that you're never going to have periods of stress or periods where you maybe are putting in extra hours because of client responsibilities, but summer's a great time to test out your accepted workflow and to really question why you're still doing some things that you may be doing.
Right.
One of my colleagues had joked, and well, she wasn't joking, she was actually serious, and she said to a group of us, she goes, we should do summer hours and we should take Fridays off. And I sort of laughed. I'm like, yeah, I got summer hours all year long, because I really do. Fridays are my no meeting day pretty much. Once a
Right.
month I have a meeting, or I'll take something if it's a fun type of meeting. But yeah, why do we force ourselves to fit into these cubes that weren't made
Yeah.
for us? Part of the,
Yeah.
I know that people who were parents, have started their own business so that they can have that freedom and flexibility. But sometimes when the kids grow up, you forget how you were flexible when you had to be. And now that you don't have to be, you don't take advantage of that for yourself.
Yeah, a visual that came to mind just because I think, as horrible as this pandemic has been, it's been a nice opportunity to reset. Those the carnival rides where the centrifugal force is keeping you against the wall. I feel
Yeah.
like that's been our work mentality, especially as Americans, especially here in the Northeast, we're a little insane. Um, Shout out to Mayor of Easttown fans. Anyway, that's we're in it. We're like, oh, I can't get away. Oh, I know I should take that day off, but no, I might get that email that they might need me. And this pandemic has kind of thrown us off of that. And now it's like, well, okay, why don't we just do a nice carousel? You're doing a nice pace, you're getting it done, you're still going around. You might even get the horse that goes up and down some days. And, let's try that because we found we were still productive, even when we felt we weren't. Nothing, in most businesses, nothing crumbled. The world didn't fall away. And yes, agree too. There are going to be those intense times where you have projects where you need to get it done. I was telling Karen as we began, we had our local chamber annual dinner last night, which I thought, oh, first of the month after a holiday, are you nuts? But it was still, I'm glad I went. And one of the companies that was honored was Almac, and they were key in helping the Pfizer vaccine come to the fore. And they spoke about how this team worked 7 days a week, a ton of hours, and wow, thankfully so. We're grateful for what they helped achieve, but now they could get back to normal, and so it's possible, especially for us as solos, because as you say so often, we have this opportunity to create our own schedules, and that's different for everybody. I like to be a little structured as far as having business hours because I know my brain and how it works. I know by what time of day I'm just no good no matter what. And also just depending on your client load and how you deal with your clients, just making sure that you're available for them and setting that expectation of when they can find you. So,
I
that's
mean,
fine. But at the
yeah,
same
I agree.
time, don't kill yourself.
I love your carousel example. That's the best analogy that I've heard. And here's some things that I think that summer lends itself well to. I always look at summer as an experimentation
Mm,
season. It's a season where you could pick up some things that you don't have time because there's a natural kind of slowdown because your clients are taking summer vacations in normal years. And this year, I think
yeah.
you're going to see that's especially true. There's not a lot of conferences and events that happen in the summertime, and so there's this natural kind of like the pace slows a little bit. And so it's a great time to experiment with your workflow, experiment with
Yeah.
your schedule, experiment with your processes. Are there things that you can streamline and do different? Are there things that you can add in it's going to make your load a little bit lighter? Is this a good time to try out, working with an assistant, or
Mhm.
hiring somebody on your team? Because you have less things that are kind of pulling at you in the summertime. So it gives you a chance to really, play around with some things and think through some things. And scheduling to me is natural. My approach, and nothing terrible has happened, is that I know that I always have my phone with me. If something
Right.
happens, I have my phone. So
Yeah.
I can be reached by text, by Slack, by Messenger, by email. I can check and I can
Yeah.
respond. And if I'm away from my office and it's something that I need to be in the office for, I can go back. But
Yeah.
I take advantage of the beautiful weather and I take off and go to the park with my dog in the middle of the day if I have a break. And, I just, I get the work done, but I've also come to understand business hours. What are
Yeah.
business hours really? Especially
Yeah,
when you have
right?
clients in every time zone. What are business hours? What does that even
That's the
really mean? I
truth.
have clients on the West Coast. I
Yeah.
have clients on Central Time. I have
Yeah.
clients on the East Coast. I have international clients. I have clients,
Yeah.
for somebody in Israel, their day's ending when my day's starting. So what does business hours means to them? I think what it really means is, you can maybe set the parameters of when you do meetings, but the work can get
Exactly.
done when the work gets done. I
Anytime.
mean, it really can. I mean,
Yeah.
even pitches, you can schedule pitches to go out at certain hours. I mean, we have all these tools
Yeah.
available to us that make work days really more fluid than I think that we lean into because we're so locked
Mhm.
into this traditional I need to be at a desk between
True.
these hours and these hours. And I mean, I would love to hear from people who have already rethought that. I
Yeah.
know that I have, I'm so non-traditional and when I tell you that I'm so unbothered about stuff these days, it's like, and if something doesn't get done, the crucial stuff is going to get done, but the other
Right.
stuff is like, didn't get to that today. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm done.
But yeah, and it'll get done because the person on the other end, they're not thinking, and I
Yeah.
do this to myself all the time. Well, not all the time. I'm trying not to, because you might get, I say you, I get in this mode of thought of, oh, I didn't get that done. And you picture the client uh, thinking, when is Michelle going to get that done? And then I catch myself thinking, they're not even thinking about me.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? You're meeting the deadlines that need to be met. The other things, like you say, they're going to get done. And I think that's the key. It's that mental shift that you almost need to just sit with yourself and internalize it and talk to yourself and say, you know what? You're going to meet your regular deadlines. And I love that you mentioned, yeah, our phones are basically little offices.
Yeah, they are.
I had a client, I was running errands on Saturday and a client texted me and, it wasn't earth shattering, but it was like, oh, hey, by the way, that Indeed ad can, we made a hire today. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I sat in the parking lot. I thought, you know what, just so I don't forget, went on Indeed, paused the ad. Great. Okay, cool.
I, and I mean, that allows you to just,
Yeah.
I would sum it up by saying, give yourself some breathing room.
Yeah,
It's really
definitely.
okay. The world is not going to fall apart. It was one of our solos and I had this tweet exchange because I had shared this article about hustle culture
Mm,
or maybe it was somebody else's tweet about hustle culture and they were saying how it landed them, with, practically a breakdown in the hospital. It
mm,
really impacted their health. And
it's
this is not
terrible.
the first I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Another solo, another solo public relations professional, not one of our solos, but another person had shared a story in Business Insider about, how this grind had led to her like having this, anxiety and not even being willing to accept that the symptoms that she were having weren't something that were really physical, some other illness. So, and
Yes.
lots of people stepped up and said the same thing happened to me. And so our bodies
Wow.
will tell us, but why would we even get to that point? And I think that this is so common within our profession to
Yeah.
stress about things. And so anyway, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, long
No,
story
no,
short,
no, you're
so
right.
had shared that he had fallen prey to that, years ago, where it was like hustle, 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 and all this pressure on herself. And then she ended up making a bunch of errors with a client. And she said the client was mad about the errors and preferred the quality of work over the hustle. It wasn't that hustle that made a difference to them, it was quality. And so I think that we need to think about that too.
Yeah.
Create an environment where you really can do your best work. And I promise you, that's not putting this unnecessary pressure on yourself to show up, all the time and go, 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 go. It's take a breath, set realistic expectations for yourself because a lot of that pressure doesn't come from our clients, it comes from us. And by the way, if you have clients that you cannot negotiate realistic expectations with, they don't have to be your clients. You really can get clients that allow you to do your best work with a sane environment. And again, this is we all know that there are times and seasons where you're busy, where there's a lot going on and you're juggling a lot. Those are manageable, but that should not be your normal. Those should be, busy periods, not this is the way that I work all the time. Michelle, you're muted.
Hello. Nothing irks me more than the glorification of the hustle culture. We're fine, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But,
Hate it.
because all it it just creates that notion of competition. Of course, yeah, you're trying to get work, you're competing at a certain level, but it's the quality and the value that you bring is what your clients want. They don't care if you're hustling 24/7. They could care less if you're doing these Instagram stories of look at me hustle and grind. No one cares.
No one cares.
No one cares. You're in this I presume you're in this business because you love being a communicator and you really, you are fulfilled because you are helping companies grow their businesses and their
Mhm.
livelihoods and helping them create a life that they can enjoy because of your talents. And I, yeah, I always a friend of mine, and she's a business coach as well, Paula G. She always says there's ease in your expertise, and I have to keep telling myself that because I think that is part of it. The whole, we must work ethic, work.
Yeah.
Why are we making it harder for ourselves when oh that was almost too easy? Well, yeah, that's why you do what you do. Hopefully,
I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And, we are here to help you we're here to encourage you, I should say, because uh, our solos are smart. They know this. We all know this someplace internally, but it can be hard to break that cycle. I have a friend that stresses a lot and is always worried
mm,
about reputation and, has just this beautiful work ethic. But I've come just over this past, I would say 6 months, honestly, to really settle with the fact that, I too, I come from a Midwestern family. My parents instilled in me a good work ethic, but I
right,
come to really sit with what that really means. My parents weren't telling me to work at all cost and to grind myself into nothingness.
right,
My parents were telling me to be, and I can hear like my mother's words in particular about what it meant to be professional, showing up on
yes,
time and being ready to go. But it didn't mean at all costs ignore every other part of your life, ignore your
right,
health. But somehow I think that those are the messages that many of us internalize, that good
yes,
work ethic equaled working hard all the time. And work should not be a grind.
right,
It really should not. And I've come to say I'm not okay with that. And it's okay if everybody else doesn't agree with that, but I've learned to listen to my body. Over the pandemic, I, started to have issues with my blood pressure, and I started to notice like I've got to control my environment more because I can't have this anxiety. I can't ignore my health.
right,
And it's not everything at any cost. It's picking those things every day and really prioritizing your time, who you give your time to, what you allow in your space, and making sure that you're giving yourself breath to not be perfect because you're not.
right.
And here's the big reality check: clients come and go.
Mhm.
They're not going to stick around just because you worked 15 hours a day. I
Right,
promise you they're not. And
right,
so rethink, who are you really doing this for?
right,
It's not for
right.
your clients because you're not going to get paid any more money. You're not going to be any more beloved by them. You're not extending your engagement with them. When they're ready to go, they're going to go. And 99% of the time, it has nothing to do with you. It's some new person comes in, they change direction, it's a budget issue, and they are not going to feel bad about making those decisions. And it doesn't mean that those relationships will not persist beyond an engagement, but who are you really grinding yourself to a nub for? It's not
Yeah,
for you because it's not healthy. It's not for them. It's not because there's some big score sheet in the sky that says, oh my God, you're not worthy unless you work, 80 hours a week. So stop it. Don't do it.
oh, that's the word right there, worthy. I think that's, that's a whole other topic for if there are any counselors out there who would like to be a guest on our show. That's a whole episode, right? Because I think on some level we all have those moments of, oh, what why am I doing this? Am I doing this to make myself feel like I'm worthwhile? I'm like, come on. And hearing that come out of my mouth, it's like, well, no, that's silly. But I think it's important that we hear this from each other because it helps affirm us. I've said time and time
Yeah.
again on this podcast how, we're solos. I mean, it doesn't mean we don't work with people, but we do spend probably more time than others alone with ourselves in the work. And you can kind of get, in the weeds a bit and start overthinking and ruminating about things that aren't even real or helpful.
Yeah.
So, you
Yeah.
know,
So, I mean, our advice for you this summer, give yourself some breathing room, take some time, enjoy. I think that we all have come over this past year. Don't let the lessons that we learned
yeah,
during this forced period of reflection
yeah,
evaporate as we go back to some sense of, gathering and normalcy. Take some time, realize that, life does have an ending. It is finite. How do you want to spend those moments and days?
yeah,
Don't let it be all about, putting in hours of work. As solos, use and enjoy this flexibility that you get to create for yourself and realize that your work day, your work style does not have to look like anyone else's. It's yours to own. Protect your mental health by not, overdoing. And, a client said to me this morning that she's an overfunctioner, as Brene Brown has
mm,
coined this term, overfunctioner. She goes, and it's not healthy. So don't be an
I'll do it.
overfunctioner and realize that this is a nuance that I still struggle with as well.
Oh,
Sometimes good enough really is your best. You shouldn't be giving the same level of effort to every single task that you have to do.
yeah,
A you know Think about the task and the value of that task to your client. Everything doesn't have to take 20 hours because you're putting so much into it. Sometimes that task is maybe worth $25. Why are you giving it $5,000 worth of effort? It's not worthy. So you
so
have to
true.
learn how to manage your energy and how to manage the time that you put into things as well. And I've seen people obsess over a press release draft.
Yeah,
Why are you obsessing over it? The client's going to make changes anyway. If you've
yeah,
gotten the narrative down and it's grammatically correct and the story is there and the narrative
right.
is there, don't keep spending 25 hours on a draft. It's not worth it. It's not going to give you the return on your investment of time. That
So
doesn't mean
true.
that the task is not important. It just means, is it as important as these 10 other things that are on your list? And so we do sort of, summer's a good time to really start to pull back and look at, how am I approaching my work? Am I really spending my time on the high value task? Are there things I'm spending time on that I could pay an intern to do that would make more sense than me giving my time to it? And, good time again, examine your schedule, examine your workflow, examine your processes, and, experiment a little when it feels like the stakes are not so high. Because it is hard to experiment when you're in the thick of things. Like fall is typically a busy season for us and it leads into that sprint to the end of the year. But summer, test some things out, take some things away
Yeah,
and see kind of what happens and develop some new habits and let one of those habits be putting yourself on your agenda.
so true.
Please.
Yes, please do that. And I think you'll find, as you said, in that breathing room, it will make you better at what you do. So it really enriches all of it. So, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what are your thoughts? What are your goals for this summer as far as aligning your time and using this time to refresh, realign, and focus on yourself because it is important. You are your instrument in this business. So we hope you've enjoyed this time yet again. We thank you for spending it with us. And please, if you've not yet done, subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And please share with all your friends. And until next time, thanks for listening to That Solo Life.